Welcome to the show. Geek Insider presents Into the Geekverse, the place to get an inside look at movies, comics, games, tech, and everything exciting going on in the Geekverse. Join Matthew Harris and David King as they take a deeper look at the good, the bad, and the downright terrible things our Geekverse has to offer. With live chat, geek news, special guests, and lots more. So sit back, relax, and join us for a peek into the Geekverse.
Welcome back, everybody. I hope you had a wonderful week. You are listening to Geek Insider presents Into the Geekverse. Now, if you missed last week's show, I highly recommend for you to go back and go ahead and watch or listen to it on your favorite podcast. We are discussing The Last Ronin from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. This is a new graphic novel that came out that we were very fortunate enough to go ahead and get our hands on. Last week, we did discuss about how difficult it was to try to grab each one of these parts separately as they were coming out. Matthew knows personally from trying to do so. We also discussed getting into the first part of the book where we discovered that the Last Ronin, spoilers ahead, by the way, guys, if you cannot tell already, but we discovered that the Last Ronin is Mikey, which is Michelangelo, the orange-wearing Ninja Turtle that has nunchucks. We then discover that he is fighting in this city that they've always fought in, but it's not Shredder anymore. We start piecing together who these villains are and what's happening in the city. We discover part of his past and why he's the last one, that the first one to go was Raph, which was the red-wearing Ninja Turtle who had his size, and he died by Shredder's daughter. After that, we did also get to see April O'Neil made a showing, and we saw that she's missing an arm and a leg, and it references a little bit about an explosion that Mikey didn't realize that she walked away alive from. After that, after a personal talk with April and Mikey, she gets into a safe and brings up this robot head. We talked a little bit last show about people who may know this robot from the show, the comic books, everything like that. But that's a little bit of a recap, guys, with nothing more to say. Once again, welcome back to the Geekverse. My name is David, and this is
Matthew Harris.
And we're really excited to tell you about the rest of this book. Matthew, what do you got to say?
Well, no, man, I love the book. It was too much to pack into one show. I thought, I asked you at one point, I was like, should we plan on discussing Thor and something else just in case that, we don't have enough time to fill? And you're like, dude, there's a lot to unpack on this book. And there really is, 5 chapters. And like you said, we went an hour and a half last week and we didn't even get halfway through the book. I did want to tell everybody here real quick to make sure that you're tuning in over the next couple of weeks. I've got in my grubby little hands a pair of Gravistar Pro Sirius Zinc Alloy Gaming Earbuds. I'll show them here. I'll show some better artwork when we officially start the giveaway. But we are going to give those away some way, somehow on this show in the next few weeks. And so you got to listen. Folks, if you're on the podcast listening, you heard what the brand is. You can look it up. The retail value, I think, David, it was like $139 USD. This is going to be just for U.S. winners only, though, folks. I ain't shipping overseas. Sorry. But stay tuned for details on that. But
yes, please go ahead, go on YouTube if you're listening. You can subscribe, hit that bell. It will notify you when we go live, so you can make sure to tune in and learn more about how to win that prize and maybe more in the future.
Yeah, we've got some things in our evil little heads for the coming weeks. We're really just finding our footing with this show. We've got a Comic-Con coming up here in just a couple of weeks where David's flying across the country to come to go with me. And so we've got some cool things planned, but we need to get on talking about The Last Ronin. And as David said earlier, I was really stoked about this comic. I got my grubby little hands on a early release or a pre-release kind of thing, a digital copy of it before it came out. The first one, fell in love with it, been waiting for it ever since. Finally got the story a week and a half ago because we just got it and then we read it and we did the first show. And so chapter 3, man, there's a lot in it. And of course I pull up the wrong thing. It starts off, we're back with a 16-year-old Hiroto being sworn in as the head of the Foot Clan, as the sole heir to the throne. So this is after Shredder's gone, after his mama's gone. And so we find out that Kara, I don't know how to say her name, but his mom was critically injured in a battle with the Turtles. And she's like laying out in state. You know, he's got her cryogenically saved, and he's talked some shit about that. He's going to save her, bring her back.
Kind of like the Bacta tank from Star Wars.
Right. And so she's just laying there in this state. And, but once he takes over, his first freaking command comes out of left field, and he calls for a truce with the Turtles. The Turtles, folks, they're a part. Splinter was a part of this clan in Japan, and therefore the Turtles are a part of that clan because they all trained under Splinter. And there's been this ongoing feud with the Foot Clan for generations. And so, but Hiroto, he's taken over the Foot Clan, and he decides that he says he wants to put an end to it. It's time to call a truce. And then it switches over to present day Hiroto, and of course we know that we don't know how, but we know that truce was absolute bullshit in some way, shape, or form. Hiroto's using a giant hologram. Big, you know, he ain't got no big ego or nothing, but he uses there you go, giant hologram. And he's telling everybody that there's a monster on the loose that tried to assassinate him, and that until he is caught, the city's under martial law.
It was quite a bit going into this this chapter immediately. You get a little bit of the past. Now, once again, we're going into Hiroto. I would like to go ahead and apologize. Anybody who may have been a part of this, if I'm mispronouncing anything. I'm truly sorry. I'm just doing my best. If you are here, though, feel free to drop a comment and let us know. I would definitely like to learn how to say that properly. Same thing with anybody else.
I'll send them the link, and they can join us on the show and correct us as we go.
Yeah. But with that being said, you get a better sense about how much, once this martial law goes in effect, how much this city is policed. You've got these Sinjas that we referred to in the first episode. Once again, guys, if you missed that, please go check it out. There's a lot of information covered, and it would help understand more of what we're saying today. Now, you also get to see, there looks like, I was going to see, Matthew, if you had anything to say about what appears to be like this ceremonial kind of makeup that he puts on. I don't think it's really discussed, but I am assuming it's ceremonial.
Right.
Considering it's Japan.
I'm glad you brought that up. I didn't take notes on that, but there was something immediately that it reminded me of, and we've actually discussed it within the last week separately, or 2 weeks. It reminded me of God of War.
Yeah, it does, but for some reason I was getting a Drax feel.
Okay, I could see that
but,
too.
Yeah, God of War definitely. Speaking of which, guys, we've got a lot of gaming information for all of those who are tuning in, waiting for that gaming bit. We got a lot of exciting things to go over. So stay tuned, get subscribed, hit that bell. We will let you know about those episodes coming out. But back to this book, I just wanted to bring up the point of like how futuristic this city's going, how much you get a feel for the policing that's happening, as well as this kind of ceremonial outfit makeup that he's wearing. He's got going.
Yeah, like you said, it's never addressed. We never see him switch into it. In fact, it's kind of dramatic sometimes where it just switches over to it. But then next in the chronological order of the comic, we finally find out who the hell this robot head is. And for me, this was my first foray for this character. And me being me, of course, I go and look him up. I go and read some stuff, older comics on him. I found out he even had his own comic at one point. But it's Fugitoid, which he's also known as Professor Zayton Honeycutt. And it's his brain that's stuck inside a robot body. And the Fugitoid is the Turtles' most trusted ally in space, and he pilots the Turtles around in a spaceship that fuses to his cyborg body. That sounds like some, jumping the shark kind of stuff when the Turtles are in space. That's like Jason goes to Jason in space or whatever. They just kind of ran. I don't know, though. Comic books usually do it a hell of a lot better than movies do.
Well, there was, when he was introduced the first time that I remember, the Turtles, I think like they made a smooth transition back when you were doing the video games, the comic books, movies, stuff like that, where you have the mutants, you have the other mutants, we mentioned them last episode, and we even got to see them, the Rhino and the Hog. I don't know why their name escapes me.
Bebop and Rocksteady.
Thank you. And so you get the mutants from the Turtles. You get these mutants. Then, if you remember, you have aliens that come into play here. And then from those aliens, you see other alien life forms. The Triceratops, which was one of the biggest threats that the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles had to go against. And then that kind of transitioned into the whole space thing. And I like that. If you tell me Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles from New York City and then in space, I'm like, oh, well, that's off the walls crazy. But I feel like, catching these kind of bits really made the transition easy, especially for the longevity of what they were doing with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It wasn't, we're ninjas fighting ninjas in New York City for however many years, 30 years?
Right.
They made that.
Longer than that.
But I didn't know if you remembered or saw anything about the Triceratops and stuff, the aliens that came down. Because remember, there was that really big enemy that had the alien in his stomach, and he was in a robot body.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyways, but I won't distract too much because, guys, I could go a long time for the history about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and I know Matthew can. But yes, we do figure out the Fugitoid has Professor Honeycutt in the body, and we're getting more into what you referred to last episode as the full image on the page,
right?
Which is definitely good and dramatic. You're getting to see a lot of the Ninja Turtles details, which expressing his body language and his emotions, how kind of hardcore Mikey got. That gives you the feeling of wrath. But there's so much to see of him throughout this book.
There is. It's definitely a book that I will go back and reread time and time again. For me, it's a classic. It is a samurai story. It's an old western, where the last of his kind goes in, the last of his family goes in for vengeance. It is that great, but it's Ninja Turtles and told in such a way that you get a lot of closure. And no matter how long you've been a fan. And speaking of, go about this point in the comic, it flashes back. We get to see April and Casey, the dad, not the daughter Casey, and the Turtles and Fugitoid, along with some others, and they're all talking. They're talking about striking the foot. Oh, and Splinter's there. They're talking about striking the foot in New York while the negotiations between the clans is going on in Japan. And so that's one thing I didn't understand. They know that it was going to be, well, I can't give anything away yet, but Donnie and Splinter take off for Japan and everybody else stays behind. They're going in to get ready for whatever's going to happen in New York. And it gets derailed. It gets derailed. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, my apologies. I didn't mean to interrupt. I think that, what you were saying that kind of caught you off guard about, them being attacking them while um, the
Negotiations.
negotiations are going
Right.
on. But I think knowing the history of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, I think that by the time we hit this point, you've got the same amount of optimism as skepticism from them. So I think that Splinter and Donnie, as the more negotiating ones, went to go do the negotiations, but I think altogether they collectively understood that the Foot Clan was probably up to no good, and who
Right.
would they be to leave their city defenseless if they
Right.
were to all go? So I think at first it was more of a strategy of like, let's make sure all ground is covered here. And then it was also, we need to investigate to see if they have some major threat, turning into more of kind of an assault. Like, you know,
Right.
they're ready for what the Foot Clan has been notorious about.
Now,
But I guess that was my perception. I definitely, now that you're saying it out loud, get the feel that you're coming from. And I guess it's just me like, no, the Ninja Turtles are good. They wouldn't just attack first
right.
unprovoked. But yeah, I definitely see where you're coming from on that.
And that's just what struck me at first. And folks, I see some of you guys coming in on YouTube. If you're just coming in late, just in case you didn't see the full description, we're discussing the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the Last Ronin, and there are spoilers. We are going in depth on chapter by chapter or book by book of this fantastic epic comics. Um, and it didn't matter anyway, David, on whatever the hell they were planning, because it gets derailed because the Foot just suddenly comes out of everywhere and just floods them from every damn angle. There's a lot of fighting. Casey and Leo are kicking some fucking ass. But then there's a swarm of those fucking Mouser bots, man. Folks, I wish I should have grabbed a picture of Mouser bots for in here. But yeah, just show them up. Little Mouser bots, they've been a bane of the existence of the Ninja Turtles since the very beginning, and
Now,
therefore every game player.
for the mention, those are more of the futuristic mousers, and those you may not recognize. I mean, the face is probably going to give it away, but they
Right.
used to have like more like feet. They were just feet on those chompers.
Yeah,
Is
that's
what I
right.
remember
That's right.
them back. But these are more futuristic. They're hovering.
Yeah. And then Fugitoid comes in and says that he knows that Stockman, the one that's ordering all the attack, has come for him, and that he'll self-destruct before before Stockman can capture him or harm his friends. And Stockman pulls that, well, if I can't have you, no one can. And he sets off an explosion. We start seeing some of the bots blowing up. Isn't that what it is, David? Some of the
Yeah. So we also we see this from Starkman. Like it's notorious for him even before this, having the self destruct of the Mousers. And I don't know if you were about to get to it, but this comes as the second part of this book that just hits me so hard. Like, in fact, this one hit me harder than seeing Raph's death, even though it was great, great imagery to show you what's happening. And just kind of getting the truly traumatizing fact of what's happening. And before I show it or anything like that, did you want to say anything, and then I'll show an example
sorry, I popped it up there. Do you see it?
yeah. Now for the book, it has a little bit different imagery,
Right,
but
right.
you can see
Sorry.
here.
Oh yes,
that giant boom. You get the trail, the train wreck. All of this chaotic, and then of course you see this big. And I like in this one how it's separate. You got the mask hanging and Leonardo's sword right there. The flames, just complete devastation.
It's beautiful artwork.
And without showing a mutilated
And
turtle,
well, tell them what it
Casey,
is. Tell them what it is on the podcast.
So on the for everybody that's listening on the podcast, highly encourage you to come back and rewatch the YouTube channel because we show off some really great examples here. But let me give you a little bit of a taste. So right now you're getting this completely leveled. Imagine like New York brick cities completely exploded, covering the floor. Then you've got this giant explosion coming from the center of it. You've got your comic books just doom over the pages. And then, of course, off the side of the explosion, you could see Leonardo's sword is buried in the rubble with the hilt out and a little bit of the blade. You've got some fire going off of it to see that he's fallen. And then above that, in the background, you could see out of the sticks in the rubble and the brick that's poking out, you have Casey's hockey mask that's hanging from there. So when you look at it all together, you can see this explosion has knocked out Leonardo and Casey and have only left these memories of them where they lay.
Yeah. And so now we're down another turtle. So we've lost 2.
And lost Casey.
Yeah. And we know that now that this is the same explosion, or we can assume this is the same explosion that takes April's arm and leg.
Which Mikey thought April was lost altogether.
Right. And which will lead into what Mikey does next. Direct bearing on why he does what he does. But the comic switches gears again. We end up with daughter Casey. She's running around town. Hiroto has shut down the city, so even the subways aren't running. Mikey reveals to April that in flashback that he reveals to her, he's talking to her, but in the comic book we see it in flashback. I think that's what I mean. That he was blown halfway across the neighborhood and it knocked him unconscious. And he didn't know how long, but when he woke up and found the building gone, he thought everyone had died. And he took off for Japan to warn Donnie and Splinter. We get back to, this can't be right. Are we already at the end of chapter 3?
Let's see. So you go, Casey gets back. So I think something that I would like to specify a little bit more. So Casey is, as last time we mentioned, a big part of this resistance that's going on against Hiroto. And now that there's martial law, she's going around kind of checking the troops. She's leading this resistance. She's going to get her gang, making sure that they can get all the help that they can for the upcoming fight. There's martial law coming down. They have no room to budge. They've got to push and attack. They're coming down. April is working on Professor Honeycutt. You get a little bit of that memory that Matthew was talking about where Mikey has decided to go to Japan. And then let's see. Yeah, so she's fighting. She makes her way down there. She has the gang, and she comes down. And as several times in this, they mention rock bottom. I think that this is dead on the nose for, like, man, it's just really literal. Like, when you think, man, I've hit rock bottom, you just think the worst place ever. And usually I think that that's too cheesy and, like, really poor writing. But this really hits because you're just seeing how crappy everyone is treated and just trying to survive for themselves. Now, before we do reach the end of it, we get to see more of, I believe, Hiroto. And this part, I'm very curious to end up seeing what you have to say about it before we get into part 4. Do you remember where he kind of has that Batman feel? He's like on the top of the building with a hood over him, and he's got these tattoo marks, and he's just
right
at the top.
Yeah, and that's the first time I was like, "What the hell?" He's got that God of War feel. It gives that vibe of no matter what, I'm gonna win for my family. I'm gonna win for my family's honor. But it also gives that batshit crazy Shredder vibe as well. He's got his grandfather's blood in him. I didn't take a whole bunch of notes in that area. By this time, I'd spent a lot of hours taking notes on these books, and I was like, for that first, I should have went back because that first show, I was running out of time getting ready for.
Now, for people on the podcast, I already kind of described. He's overlooking the city on a rainy day at the very top. In this brooding kind of Batman stance with a cape over him. I'll go ahead and show people who are on the YouTube. People who are listening on the podcast, once again, you can check out these imagery. Our YouTube clip will stay up. That's pretty much it. I know you didn't take too much notes, but it just takes 4 pages of them showing him just being this like really dramatic, like you're getting the feel of like Shredder's in there. He's got this just complex of he has to win, that he is a god. It's basically just taking 4 pages to kind of show you all of that kind of stuff. And then from there, we kind of do this whole futuristic jumpy thing to a battle. But before we get to the battle, and I could talk a little bit about this, but do you remember right after that what April surprises Mikey with? April. Yeah.
No. I'm not remembering because I was fixing to say Casey, but that was earlier.
Now, April has talked to Mikey about, you think I've really been down here in the sewers doing nothing this entire time. I've been prepping for the war ahead. And shows this big, monstrous, like, tank that she has been building. And then we go over to the next page where the last part before part 4 is Mikey fully suited up as the Last Ronin with Casey. And correct me if I'm wrong, Matthew, but I think this is the first time we see she just looks totally different. Mask on, haircut, purple suit. It kind of threw me for a loop for a second. I'm like, who's this hero person? But anyways, they're in the middle of the battlefield. Casey and Mikey, the Last Ronin, are talking about the battle plans, and then we go into chapter 4. Matthew, you got anything else to say, or do you want to take us right into chapter 4?
No, I was just going to kind of piggyback on what you said. Yeah, that was the first, and it's kind of just this weird flash forward, and you can tell because of what's happening that, okay, we're in the future, but all of a sudden we've got Casey. She's got like a purple Robbins-esque kind of suit on and a mask, and her team's all around. There's all kinds of buzzing and shit going on all around them, and that's where the chapter ends. And so, of course, we assume that the battle is on, that they are heading towards, backing up. And we do find out at the end of chapter 3 that there's a plan to hit Stockman's private headquarters / fortress before going after Hiroto. So this is the battle before the battle. They got to take out the Stockman's place to take out the power, the security, the Sinjas. But it's supposed to be totally fortified. And I guess we find out more here in a minute because I was fixing it. I think I almost gave something else away. But
now, I think an important distinction there, which if you're not reading it and you're just catching in from us giving you this review / recaps. Stockman obviously is a big Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle part of their story. He works for the Foot Clan making technology and these mousers and stuff that always is a pain in the Turtles behind. And now he is still working for the Foot Clan, all cybered out. And like Matthew said, they're having to take him down to take down security and power and for them to be able to initiate their phase 2 of their. But it's not, if I remember right, it's not in the city. So it's separate from the Foot Clan where they're going to attack. So this isn't a different area. So we're trying to paint the best picture for you guys as we can. And I wanted to go ahead and let y'all know that.
Yeah, and they even talked about it being really fortified and that, and Mikey even is like, this is a crazy plan. This is a crazy plan. But Chapter 4 picks up. Casey, Mikey, and Casey's crew are attacking Stockman's place. And like he said, or we said, she's wearing a mask and she's calling him Sensei. And then we flash back to Mikey training her a little and showing her that she isn't as fast and as badass as she thinks she is. This was a very cool scene, David, didn't you think?
Yeah, definitely. And guys, I went ahead for people who are listening on the podcast. I shelled up the image. It's a 2-page, 1-picture image of the battle scene of the Last Ronin, aka Mikey, Casey, and the troops laying down suppression fire underneath rubble as Mikey is going forward on foot. So amazing imagery that we see there. Guys, I would like to let y'all know both last time and definitely this episode, we are letting y'all know a lot from the podcast and from the YouTube channel about checking us out, because this is really some amazing stuff if you do miss it. So please feel free to check us out. And if you do want to catch us live for chances of giveaways, you can go on, subscribe, hit that bell to be notified. We do have a pair of gaming earbuds, retail value at about $139. And you can come on, you'll start learning how you can enter for a chance to win those headphones. So
yeah, it's not going to be restricted to those that watch on YouTube Live. It will be open to the podcast as well. We just got to work out all the details first. I've got to do my thing for receiving them. I wanted to give them a shout out because it is a really nice little pair. But yeah, we're looking forward to that, and we're going to figure it out. If you got any ideas on how we can give them away other than sending them straight to you, drop us a note down in comments. Tell us, what you think the best contest would be. Of course, we're always wanting more subscribers. And speaking of subscribers, if you're not able to catch the show for any reason live on Sunday nights on YouTube, we are available on your favorite podcast every week.
And with that being said, leading us back into they're in the middle of the battle for Chapter 4. Obviously, you're really seeing a lot of the skill that Mikey, the Last Ronin, is using his different weapons for taking out these massive amounts of robots. No surprise there. And obviously some stuff that Casey has been taught. This leads us back to a flashback where, like Matthew was leading us to, Mikey is training Casey with her haircut. And I think this is where they actually mentioned that. Like, where did you just go out of the blue and cut your hair?
Right. And wait a minute. He says he'll train her, and he does. He takes her in, and she tries to attack him, and he uses the old adages of using her own power against her. He shows her that she's just not as quick as she thinks she is, and just showing her that her street smarts aren't as smart as she thinks they are is what I'm trying to get
like the symbolism here. Maybe I'm looking too far into it. I'll let you decide that, Matthew. But I think this really gives us an idea of how much she also takes after her father, Casey. We obviously see her smarts, the rebellion, April. But April, this was the raw force that I imagine from Casey. We learn a lot more about her further on. And guys, please stay tuned. There's so much more, and I guarantee you some of these things are going to shock you.
Yeah, there's some things, man, that are coming up about Casey in particular, and April, and even Casey Jones. That is definitely, I want to spend some good time discussing. I think that could be a whole fucking show just itself, man.
But definitely we get into this imagery where she is, and guys, it's not, like Matthew was saying, he's egging her on. She's attacking him. He is using defensive and using her own strength against her. But with this imagery, you're really seeing that it's powerful. It's not, she's got this technique and everything like that. You're seeing that it is powerful. And you could see even Mikey's being pushed back, but yet he's
Right.
still egging her on because she's playing at her like emotional, her like, I'm better than you think, like I worked hard for this, don't undermine me kind of feel. And I think this is really important for not underestimating this character. I don't know about you, Matthew, but before we go forward, when I was watching Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and I would see April and I would see Casey, you know, when I was first getting into it, I'm just like, this is really lame. How are you out there with a hockey stick going to be matching up with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? And I'm telling you that nothing has ever put me in my place than this before. This gave me the feel of this person belongs with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. They are on the same level and it gives me the same excitement that I am looking for out of this. But what do you think? You know, we've got these two humans that come in, and then obviously now we've got their daughter coming in with mutant ninjas, man.
Right. And I had the exact same fucking reaction back in the 80s when I first got into the Ninja Turtles. The movie came out, and here comes Casey Jones. And I forget the actor's name, but he was great at it. And I loved the way that he just went at it. He was just to me, a balls to the wall Batman without the millions of dollars. He was just out there beating the shit out of people. He was better than the fake Batman and Dark Knight Rises, or not Rises, the Dark Knight, where they're dressing up with him as him in hockey pads, because you know Casey throws on a hockey mask, but he whips some ass. He is talented, you know, and he's not a ninja, but if I'm not mistaken, the Turtles do go on to give him a lot of training, and
and they discuss it a little bit in this book, not that in particular, but just in general about their lives of April, Casey, and you know
right.
all of the people. They talk about that, and that kind of
and that they've been
itself.
a family, right? Yeah. But yeah, I at first I was kind of shocked, going, "What the fuck is a human going to do with Ninja Turtles? That they're just going to be able to whip everybody's ass? They don't need him." But no, he became integral into the whole scheme of things. April, she had to be the connection between them and the real world. Fell in love with her as well, and as cheesy as the original Ninja Turtle movies are, they still hold a special place in my heart. My daughters loved them. I haven't watched them in a long time. I really should. But yeah, so Casey I've always liked Casey. He, to me, he was kind of the Punisher, no special, mutations, no skills other than I'm just going to get out and beat the shit out of some people that deserve it.
Yeah.
And then now we go into a flashback to Mikey's story about him taking off on foot to find Donnie and Splinter. He gets to the town or the village, and excuse me, that he is looking for it. But we get a flashback of Splinter and Donnie meeting with the Foot for the truce, and he is being told this is.
So what it is first you get and thank you so much. I'm going to go back for the last episode where you explained where the memories in this differ, and it really draws out. So first we got Mikey's memories here where it's all black and gray, where he goes and finds the clan and talks to them about, I am looking for my brother and my master. And then the master of the clan there proceeds to fill Mikey in from his memory. Then we switch to this colored memory where Splinter and Donnie arrive in their ship, are greeted, talked about how much they miss them and stuff. And then they go out and man, I'm going to ask your opinion on this. So it's the ceremonial grounds for the treaty that they're trying. But when I saw that image, I thought that was a battlefield ruins. What did you think it was? Like when you first got?
Yeah, I thought it was just the ruins of a battlefield as well, and I thought that they were meeting. Yeah, I can't see it too well, but I. Oh wait.
So, ladies and gentlemen, for people who have got this put up in podcasts who can't see, what we see here is the place that they're meeting for the treaty. You can see a little bit of the soldiers that are holding up in guard, some of the trees. I'm guessing snow because they're up in the mountains. And then you see all these blocks and stuff that's out, this ground. And then you've got these old Japanese, entryways. Ladies and gentlemen, if
Right.
anyone knows what those are called, please drop us a comment. Let us know. We always love to learn about this stuff. And I thought this was a battleground, but I'm just now looking at it and thinking this is probably where they buried all of honored all of their fallen soldiers during combat. It's a cemetery, I think.
And it kind of stand to reason there because there's a betrayal comes that Hiroto doesn't show, and they're saying he's on his way. Let's go ahead and make this agreement before he gets here. And
no.
Yeah, they're
Wait
like,
a
no.
minute.
And then all of a sudden, everything goes sideways like they expected. The Foot Clan attacks. And man, this is another one of my favorite lines. When Splinter turns to Donnie and he says, "No mercy, my son," and they go balls out. Man, there's some badass fighting scenes.
And you were seeing how swift Splinter is.
Yeah. He's more swift than, dare I say it, than Yoda. And
yeah, where the Clone Wars.
Yeah, the Clone Wars. But yeah, he's pretty spry. But we get some badass fighting. Hiroto does show up, and man, this is so cowardly. He's just another little beep bitch boy. He orders all the archers at the ready, and Splinter calls him out, and starts charging for him. Going to end this shit once and for all. And Hiroto starts riding toward him, egging him on. And then he calls for the archers. All comes flying in. You get another heartbreaking moment. I teared up, man. I did. I have to say, this is the second time the book teared me up because Splinter and Donnie are gone. They're dead.
Man, and Leonardo and Casey didn't get you. I felt like that was the one that hit hardest for me. Leonardo, the skill, the strategy.
I said, that was the second
first
time.
One was Raph. The second time was Leonardo, and so this is your
this
third
is the third.
time.
Yeah, and then there's
this book is emotional, guys. You got a lot of imagery going on here.
And I have always admitted I am either a pussy or an empath. Other people's emotions feed mine. It's weird, but yes, that kind of stuff right there, especially because I've been a Turtles fan for so long, you kind of feel like these characters, man. I'd probably, if they said they were killing Batman for real, and Bruce Wayne was no longer around ever again, and it was a well-written scene, you bet your ass I'd cry. Yeah, dude.
Now
That's
are
beautiful
getting to see. Now this one a little bit disappointing, but I do understand why they did it. They didn't give us full page imagery for this one, but you do get to see that they're in the battle. How Donatello is trying to protect Splinter. The rain of arrows are just coming from anywhere, everywhere. There's no escaping it. And finally, you get back to seeing Donatello's staff sticking up from the snow with arrows any and every which way.
And kind of calling back to the Casey Jones. And that one other thing I did want to say is there was another quote here as it's leading out of the people telling Mikey the story. The man says, there are people, creatures, warriors, heroes, and legends. Your father was all three. And so I just thought that was pretty phenomenal, to say about a rat, a mutant, a father. It was pretty cool. And it's then that it was then at that point that Mikey started his long walk. He just took off. And then we come back to the present, and April shows up, and they make their way in. Go ahead. You take over next.
So once you see them phasing off, we go back into where they're doing the battle. You get a small glimpse where they're preparing their, doing the whole round table that you see classic from Star Wars and all the others. Now, on here, they're discussing, and Mikey is just not digging this plan that they've got going on. It's not going well, but he realizes that it's all of them against him. And if he tries to go at it alone, and he kind of has this battle multiple times, where if he goes at it alone, they're just going to go themselves, and he could do more protecting them if he was with them. So reluctantly, he goes against what he wants, and he goes with them. They're up to the wall. Plans are not going the way that they want them to go. You get to see an image of Stockman, who's all cyborged out, obviously. I mean, he's got a lot of this technology and stuff like that. You get a little bit of the glimpse where they're going. It's doing this whole back and forth. You're doing the fight. You're going back to the planning. And they're showing where plans aren't always going according, and that they're having to change it on the fly. When they're going out, Casey and Mikey are making some plans, and they need to attack, get those turrets, do anything that we can. They're talking about how they even have air troops are coming in, but they need the turrets so that the air troops aren't taken out. And you just get this amazing imagery where Mikey is up top and he's destroying these turrets, and they're about twice as big as he is, not lengthwise, but width. It's just big. And so the entire time while he's doing this, he's really fighting himself because he hates the plan that's in action, but also his morality is not letting him leave all of them behind. Now, when he destroys these ones, we also now not only am getting the plans, like it's flashing back from the plans to him fighting and everything, we're getting Professor Stockman, and then seeing that the Splinter's grandson, I can't pronounce his name.
Hiroto.
Hiroto?
Yeah, Hiroto.
Hiroto is getting wind of Stockman getting a lot of noise over in Stockman's area. Then, of course, we go back to the fight. And Matthew, I know everyone's missing you. You want to pick it up from there?
I think I'm picking up right here where they use honeycombs or honeycut. Is it honeycut or honeycut robot head? And he says the same thing right before he blew up the robots before. He says, "You shall not, or you cannot pass." And he fries the shit out of him until he's nothing but disintegrating bone. I don't know what you'd call it. He just kind of zoots out. Show the image there for those that are watching on video. He just floods him. Am I skipping too far ahead? Did I?
You might be. So the part that I'm at is when he takes out the turrets, the air troops are coming in, he knows, and then after that, they send all of the Mousers after them. And then that's when we see, and we may have seen it one other time before, but Mikey's got these weapons, these two sticks, gives me this whole Nightwing kind of feel. And you see all this, and you may think it's explosions from them self-destructing, but it actually tells you that he's got EMPs built into these weapons. And when you start seeing all the different ones, these aren't weapons that the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles have used before. But we've seen him use Leonardo's katana. We've used the scythes from Wrath, and we've seen him use the stick from Donatello. But we haven't seen any nunchucks.
At all.
Now, I don't know. This was the moment that it hit me, and I don't know if it hit you or if you kind of discovered this. So not only did I understand that he went from these nunchucks to the two like half staffs. I don't know what it would be. Batons, and they're high technology. They've got EMPs in them, but I
Right.
didn't just see it as that. What I saw is Mikey's in the past, not just the color, not just who he was, not just how he fought.
Oh, good
He's
point.
gone. He is a new person using new
Good
weapons.
point. Yeah.
And that was the moment that it hit me. There wasn't any part of Mikey left.
Left, no.
Not in a really dark way, but in a kind of a mature way. Seeing how he was
Yeah.
always like the kid and that they always pushed him around. This was like,
Right.
I'm not a kid anymore, and it's for y'all to take me serious. And I caught that from this. And these are all things not spoken. These are things that I see from the imagery and the storytelling.
And I wonder, since they didn't ever touch on those weapons, I wonder if that's something that is in later comic books, and which, of course, being a geek, I've already been looking at some of the other trade paperbacks and stuff, and I'll start just like what I did with Batman back in the day. I'll start where it's at, and then I'll work my way backwards, and then I'll become addicted, and I'll have to find every issue of everything, and then I'll become a Ninja Turtle historian. But we're getting on up there in the years. Maybe there will be a need for an official Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles historian.
Yeah.
But let's see here. So I guess I must have skipped a big portion there in my notes because I'm up to where they were using the head.
That is the next part. So the big tank comes in. April's finally supporting them. A bunch of the Mousers are there. They're getting over, and April comes to save the day and says, "It's your turn," and brings out the head.
And she, as they're going to use it, Stockman comes in, and Honeycutt says the same thing to him, that he said you'll see it earlier in the comic when you see where Stockman or Honeycomb, where he gets blown up, and April loses her arm and leg and all of that. He says you just cannot pass. And this time, no, I don't know what he does. He pulls all the electricity from everywhere in the cosmos, fries him up like a crispy critter, and he just disintegrates. He just poof. He's nothing but atoms, dust, ashes to ashes, dust to dust. Stockholm's no longer among us. And then Honeycutt uses nanobots. Honeycutt turns into nanobots, and he kind of goes out like looking like a swarm of flies. He infiltrates Stockman's systems, and he shuts down power to the city and Hiroto's robot army and his tower. And of course, that scares the piss out of Hiroto. He calls for everyone and every weapon to come to the tower. Your turn.
Now, once you do that, once again, you get these amazing big imagery that's going on. Obviously, Mikey's got to be the last
I love
Ronin,
that. That was one of my
imaging.
favorite ones.
But did you notice in this one that there is 2 Donatello staffs? So one laying, one standing up.
Huh. Yeah, you're right. Nah.
But before that, we get to see the battle's over. He's sheathing his sword, his katana, and he's doing the brooding because war's never over. It's not over for him. That wasn't his goal. It was just merely the battle before the war. So in this one,
I was just going to go ahead, and then I'll do what I want to say about this artwork.
Then we lead into part 5, the final one, and you get this amazing imagery. Once again, it's a 2-page image where you get to see Mikey doing this internal struggle, and you've got the clarity of the ghost turtles behind him, and they're all giving him shit, discussing, they're really pushing home once again what Mikey is perceiving his brothers of him. Like he's not he's not thinking that his brothers are super supportive, and he just remembers them pushing him so much. You know,
Right.
once again, we really drive that home with this.
Yeah, and all I was wanting to say real quick is this is one of those areas where you just saw Mikey all pumped up and he's just kind of beaten. He's sitting there on the bed. This level of artwork, folks, if you're watching on the YouTube channel, you just saw a slice of that artwork, but that style is through all 5 chapters slash issues. And that was, I'm going to butcher your names, folks. If I do, I'm so sorry. But we have Asal Escorza, Isaac Escorza, Ben Bishop, and Kevin Eastman with Luis Antonio Delgado on colors. Guys, ladies and gentlemen, gentlemen, whoever was on there, yeah, there you go. This is just some really amazing work, and I'm very, very appreciative of the hard work that you had to put into this book or these books. And you got 2 guys here that are definitely appreciative of it, and say you have a fantastic job. And now, we did skip over this, or did we? Did we already find out that because during the fight between, or the training between Mikey and Casey, Mikey figured something out? And did he reveal that yet, or is that in the
No.
final book? Okay.
Yeah, that's in the final.
I had a note to myself here on that, and I probably got notes about it again here later. But just at this point, I was like, "Hey, wait a minute!" When I went back through, I was like, was that revealed yet or not?" Because Mikey did pick something up during that little training session.
Now,
And
there is, once again, I like to not pick apart because this is just astounding artwork. But did you notice that this was the first time that we see the nunchucks appear?
No, I didn't even ever see the nunchucks. I still can't see them. I'm gonna have to open my own.
Right.
Oh, okay, yeah. Wow. And he never uses them though.
No.
And you never see him on his body. You see every other weapon in there. But I wonder if they just threw those in there as a little Easter egg. Because
Well, I think if you're looking at the imagery, it's really showing you Donatello, Leonardo, Raph,
right.
then you got Mikey, and because they all have their weapons, notice he doesn't have any of their weapons with him. He's got his original nunchucks, original katanas, staff, and sais.
Now, I didn't write this down in the notes, but now that you brought that little scene up right there, this is a really pivotal scene. Mikey and the guys are going back and forth. And of course, at this time, folks, we know that the brothers are voices in his head. They're ghosts of the past. They're the wisdom that they bestowed upon him over the years. So he's still hearing what advice they would have likely have given him in this situation. And so he's playing out these conversations in his head. It's real to him. But at this point, Mikey he knows what's coming. He has said it all along since the beginning of this entire run. Mikey has said what is coming. And it's at this point that he tells them to leave him alone, right? He tells them to shut up.
Yeah, this was kind of somewhat of a breaking point for him.
Right.
I think that, in my opinion, reading this, experiencing it, understanding the story of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, that at the beginning you were talking about, he's saying what he's always said along. He's on a mission. He's on a mission as the Last Ronin to finally settle his clan's score, basically.
Yep.
Now, what I think that this meant was when he was first starting this, he was still attached to his brothers, their way, what he was going to do. He hadn't had enough yet. He was still holding on. Even when he was going to try to off himself in the first chapter, he still had the voices, and I felt like he was still holding on. And this scene right here was him going, no, that's it. I am no longer being held back by what I feel my brothers would have judged me by. I am the one here. I have a score to settle, and that's what I'm going to do. And I think by him finally being able to let that go, it's kind of like he's serious now. I mean, he was always serious, but like, you know, his heart wasn't in it. And now realizing April's alive, April has a kid, Casey, training. He's like, no, this needs to end. Before it was about him. Now it's about back what they used to stood for. It's about the city.
Yep, really, really good points. And folks, if you're just tuning in, I've just saw a couple more people drop on. Thank you so much for tuning in. We were discussing the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, The Last Ronin. It is a book that just came out a week before last. You can get it on Amazon. Last I checked, it was $20. Fantastic freaking story. It's got 5 books wrapped into one. It's available in hardback. And we are about to discuss the last chapter. There are spoilers throughout this whole thing. You can go back and listen to the first 2 chapters from our last week's show, and then you can listen from the beginning to get the rest of the chapters on this. But we are moving into the final chapter. There are spoilers ahead.
Now, guys, I'll tell you how much in demand that this is. The Amazon value, like the original value, is $30 now, and this hasn't been out that long. This thing already shot up
$10.
Yeah, 30%.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm really not surprised if, you know, by the end of this year, it could hit like $50.
And especially this hardback. And it'll be some time before it comes out and trade paperback. Mm-hmm. That's why I pre-ordered mine. I pre-ordered mine like in May. And it was like, this isn't coming out to July, Matthew. And I was like, yeah, I know. I don't pre-order comic books, man. Darth Vader and Ninja Turtles about the only things that would probably make me pre-order comic books, or a Batman. If there was a really badass Batman coming out, I'd pre-order it, of course. But moving into chapter 5, here comes the scene I was thinking about. Mikey and the Ghost are arguing over hitting Hiroto now, while they've got him on his heels, since they were just good at hitting Stonewall. Mikey tells Raph, go to hell, Raph. I wish I could bring you back just so I could kill you myself. And he ends up leaving the lair, saying he's going to finish this before any more innocents are hurt. Mikey goes back to the tower, and you're going to have to stop me if I'm missing anything, because I'm hitting highlights here. We're at the hour point right now, and we still got a decent little bit here. But there's lots of fighting. There's robots that are on internal power somehow in the tower. They're not on the system that Stonewall had them on. And there's a big son of a bitch comes down that Mikey calls a tank with wings, and it really gives him a fight, man, and it wears him down. It's like, it reminded me, man, if it would have continued more, it would have really reminded me of it. The breaking of the bat, Nightfall, when Bane releases everybody from Arkham Asylum and sicks them after Batman, and once Batman's wore down, then Bane came in, and that's kind of what this made me feel. I thought that he was going to send in all these big son of a bitches until he gets to the end. But anyway, we get lots of fighting. The robots, like I said, they're on that internal power grid. We get through that. The big robot and him fight, but like I said, it wears him down. And then the fight with Hiroto starts. And this is
I've got to go ahead and show in what we get to see him come in.
Yeah,
this is where we get a clear depiction of their clan symbol on the suit, and then the Shredder vibes, but a futuristic kind of feel. And this right here, this shows us like his clan, who he is, the type of person he is. As Matthew mentioned earlier, ladies and gentlemen, his mother, Shredder's daughter, was in this healing kind of chamber or
Cryogenic,
cryostasis.
yeah, cryostasis.
And she's just been that way while he's reigning, and he's tired of her like hovering over him and his thoughts.
Well, and doesn't
And
Mikey threaten her? He says he's going to kill them both.
yeah, Mikey comes in and threatens him. You real hardcore, man. Mikey's done with
Yeah.
all of this, and man, he kills his own mother.
Yeah, he's
Hiroto
like, "Oh, you're going to
just-
kill her? Now let me do
Yeah.
it for you." And it's a hardcore scene. It really is.
Yeah, and then you get, if y'all didn't get a good close up, you get to see his mask, which is like this black, very very minimalistic black skull with the Shredder emblem up top and a very sleek suit on.
Yeah, and it's Hiroto has on what we find out is a liquid metal alloy suit. Mike, when they start fighting now, and Mikey gets the blows, we learn that it kind of heals. But folks, there's no way either one of us could do it justice. I could sit here and say it, and he could sit there and show you page by page, but we get a fight that goes on for 15 fucking pages long, man.
Now, with what Matthew is saying, sorry,
No.
didn't mean to. With Matthew, what Matthew's saying, man, guys, I really like to try to paint a picture in y'all's head and kind of break down these images and get y'all to feel what I feel. But guys, without reading this book page for page and understanding what the Last Ronin Mikey goes through, the piece by piece, where they didn't just put the puzzle together. They put a puzzle together 1, 2, 3. They were all meticulously labeled, and they did it all perfectly. If you had almost, I would say, anything in this book put in a different order, it would not have been as good. They did the absolute best. So basically what that means, guys, is leading up to this final one, obviously y'all know we're on the final chapter, and we've got the battle that we've all been waiting for, that Mikey's been waiting for. Places on fire, his liquid nano metal suit kind of vibe. Mikey, who's just not giving up, and he's using everything that he has learned to throw against this guy. And you get to see this. I mean, it kind of made me feel like this was a movie. You know how we talk about how good Disney does on that kind of stuff in their shows?
Right.
That's what this kind of gave me the feel. And guys, I love it. I could show you, Matthew could talk about it. It's not going to be the same feel. Guys, if you have watched the first episode that we put out, you've watched this one, and you've watched them over and over 5 times, still go get this book and check it out.
Yeah,
it is just otherworldly to experience.
Our words can't do it justice. I mean, we're going in depth. We're going in deep. We're talking about the storyline, but we're skimming over some parts. We're not discussing the artwork and the beautiful artwork in some areas. And this battle scene, dude, I don't want anybody to take it wrong. It goes on for at least 15 pages, but it doesn't feel drawn out. There is, decades and decades and decades or generations of hate between these two clans. And you've got the last of each coming together, coming to a head, and both having every reason to hate each other and just wanting it to be over.
The thing that's really important that I noticed, like you were saying about it not feeling drawn out, is spot on. Things that we get to see that you don't always see in comic books, or at least feel, is the fight transitions and the story that the fight tells itself. The body language, words that are not said. So when you're going through these pages and you're seeing the situation that they're in, the surroundings that they're in, the words that they say, their body language, it tells a story by itself. Man, I'm saying the same thing over and over, but I want everyone to understand. The biggest thing that I can let you guys know is when you start the fight, Mikey, the Last Ronin, he is getting tired. He's already gone through all of this badass fighting, that big ass robot and everything like that. And you see, yes, it does. He does talk to himself about the whole like, I need to find a weak spot, but it shows you what he goes through to try to find one. Just trial and error and trial and
Right.
error, but not too much. It doesn't bore you with it. And then finally you see just this
The
tiny
nick in the armor.
that little weakness that he can do. But man, it is not gonna be easy.
And what I
go ahead, yeah, man.
No, I was gonna say it's right at this same time, man. That you would kind of expect it, but it fits perfectly here, where he starts using each of his brother's weapons, and he says that's a gift from Raphael. That one's courtesy of Leonardo, as he's hitting him with the katana, or he kicks the katana into his guts. And Donatello sends his regards, and he breaks the staff over his head. I mean, and this is spread throughout that. But again, like you said, Mikey's having to reach into the reserves, man. He's on fumes at this point, but he is still summoning the spirits of his brothers and of his father, and using his training. And like you said, you get this inner monologue with him where he's like, you wait, you conserve, and you watch, and you fight, and then bam. And then, of course, Hiroto gets the shit kicked out of him finally. Now, and he says, okay. Go ahead.
This was a really this was something really big that I wanted to hit the point on. You get this explosion that's happening in this city, the tower that's happening. And then after, like Matthew said, he just gets the shit kicked out of him. Mikey has waited, observed, and taken advantage of the opening that he's got. And you see, like Matthew said, he yields. He says, fine, I lose, you win, I yield. At that point, what goes through my head is, guys, this is a Japanese New York City Mutant Ninja Turtles, where they are based off of clans of honor. Even Shredder,
I know where you're going.
You've had honor shown, and even the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles has used that against Shredder. His honor, for them to get one last chance to either escape or to fight back, they have always upheld the honor. This was really big for the clan. And when you saw that, when I read it, I knew from the way that we got the character development from him that he didn't mean it. And I know they wanted you to know that. Right. But man, the kick that it gives you, just like, this man is a piece of shit. Being the top of his clan, praising honor and all of this stuff, and all of his followers following him.
Yes.
And not a bit of honor in his bone. He kills his mother. He's faking yielding just to be able to win at no cost. He uses Stockholm just to Stockholm?
Stockholm or Stonewall. Yeah, Stockholm. I called him Stonewall earlier.
Yeah. And, he uses that to blow up when Splinter's going, just a cowardly piece of shit who's in the back, rain, fire of arrows. Man, it worked up this entire book of his character development to tell you this guy's a piece of shit. He's an enemy, but he's not an enemy like Shredder. He's a dishonorable piece of shit. And I'll let you take it from here. But I just wanted to, that was something that I saw, and I was like, wow,
And I thought you're exactly right. I didn't think along those points. I thought that, being the Japanese way, and that he was going to ask to be able to kill himself like Mikey was going to do at the beginning of the book. I thought we was going to get this full circle kind of thing. But no, he fucking Mikey tells him, Hiroto says that you win, Mikey, you win. And Mikey says, there is no lose or win today, only an end. And Hiroto agrees, pulls up a blade, as we all knew he would, and he slices Mikey. And they end up in a sewer and washed out out of the city. into this mud. I guess it ain't sewer because they're not in crap, but they do end up in what looks like crap.
Yeah, it is an underground waterway, which basically
Right.
is a sewer. Now, I do have to say, because we mentioned several points in this second show about, we've never seen Mikey use his nunchucks. He is evolved. He is a different person, everything like that. And this is something that I did catch. Was he defeats him with his nunchucks.
Oh, see, I didn't. I was so going page by page at this point.
And I think that this is just a little nod, but makes a whole lot of feelings drawn into the plot, the story, the character development. Man, like, he was going into the battlefield. He was done with his brothers. And you just have this, like, he's on a suicide mission. He doesn't care. He's just going to go do it. And as he goes, and he's unburdened that weight of the guilt, survivor's guilt, and being the only one of his brothers and having to uphold all of what they stood for. He's finally got that drop, and he was kicking ass with it. He was using their weapons and everything. He even mentioned each brother by name when he was doing it because he was in the groove. He no longer was thinking of the weight of having to uphold what they stood for and just stood for his clan, his Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, his brothers. He was all that's left of them, and he was using that rather than the weight of it. And once he did that, I feel like he freed himself to be back to who he was, the original nunchucks Mikey. And you even get kind of his fighting style. I mean, a very good stance of his that he did as Mikey all the time.
Yes, very much so. And I love how buff he is, though.
Yeah.
I love how buff he is. And when they land down in this area, Mikey tells him that this mud will be your grave. And Hiroto says, I'm a god. I'm a god. And don't know what really happens here. I'm assuming Mikey uses his EMP somehow, but there's a lot of electricity and a big boom, and a Hiroto ends up face down in the muck. Now, David, did you discern what the fuck happened here?
So what ended up happening here, you're right. He talks about it's going to be your grave, and he's got nothing left in him. You can see, and then like Matthew was saying, it wasn't the EMP though. I could see where you were saying that though, but you could see after he's getting beaten and everything, he grabs and activates something on his chest, and then it starts going off.
Okay.
And see this red and everything, and I'm thinking it gives you the electrical vibe, but obviously it was more of it said boom. So obviously it was some sort of bomb, but the imagery kind of gave you more of an EMP feel. So I do get that with you. So then, as you're probably getting to, ass cheeks up in his grave.
Face down. He's got some Bowflex going on that booty. He's definitely got a badunkadunk. But then Donnie is laying there. He's barely alive.
Whoa.
Wait.
Rewind. Try again. We've only had 5 chapters. Try again. There you go.
Mikey is laying there. I just caught it when you said that. Mikey is laying there, barely alive, and Casey, the daughter, of course, finds him. Earlier, I think it's in this chapter, April revealed to her that she had injected him with a tracker when she took his blood. And see, we didn't discuss it at some point. But we didn't discuss Casey. And
so we'll touch base. We're right at the tail end. Let's go ahead and finish the tail end.
And then we got to swing back to talk about her. But so she says that she put a tracker in him, and so she shows up there to help him out. And this, folks, like we talked about, this was an emotional book. I seriously teared up a couple of times. This one had tears streaming down my face. I'm not going to lie. You can call me any name you want to call me. This was such a beautiful culmination of a storyline that I have followed since 1987 when this stuff came out. And it was just such a beautifully crafted storyline that, yeah, I mean, even at the beginning of the book, it discusses that storyline was kind of hatched a couple of decades ago and it sat on the shelf, and then it just kind of morphed into this. I don't think it could have been done better. And we get Casey and Mikey talk, and she tells him that he promised to teach her and that he can't die. And before we move on, David, anything you want to throw in here?
No, I mean, this is definitely something that is really crazy. And can I go ahead and talk about the last bit?
Oh, yeah.
Or you want to... Okay,
No.
So we get where they have this emotional time, and laying there is Splinter's book. This is something that, guys, if you missed our last show, go check it out. The chapters explain about what Mikey's done with the book, what Casey has talked about with the book, and Casey and Mikey are talking about the book, and it finally flips to the last page that we've seen before that says "No peace." Mikey then gives this to Casey, kind of to symbolize
PEACE.
Yeah, no peace, and like understand it, be one with peace, and this kind of symbolizes Mikey's passing away. You then see the flat line on the page, why Casey is over Mikey's dead body crying, and April is standing. And, it goes into the memory of all the good times that the whole family, I mean, Casey, April, Donnie, Raph, Mikey, Leonardo, Splinter, all of it, all of the good memories that you get to see them bouncing on the top of the rooftops. Some really nice moments. And the last bit that we see here is Casey in the sewer, training, working up a sweat, wiping her brow, closing Splinter's book that has all of his teachings in it. And then you see Casey checking up on something. She goes, "Hey there." There's a lab equipment all in the sewer and everything like that. And you flip to the last full page image by none other than 4 turtles. Now, before I lead into what I have to say about these 4 turtles and what that means for the story, there was something that was mentioned, and it's really hard. We try to give y'all a summary, guys, so it's really easy for us to miss some stuff. And this is a big part, and we're about to talk about it. But before I talk about that, did you have anything that I missed in that last little couple pages?
Yeah, just there is a little segue in there where it's Mikey wakes up and he's in a dreamlike state, like in the very first flashback we saw in chapter 1, where they're all young, and it seems like he kind of has a memory, man, of what just happened as him as the Last Ronin being a dream of some sort, because he turns to people and he's like, Mikey, or not Mikey, but Leo and Father. He's acting kind of surprised to see them. They all look young. We know it's a flashback or a dream, but it ties in with that first little dream sequence. Yeah, exactly. But then it just, to me, it kind of seemed like it was leading you to believe, oh shit, this could have all been a dream. And then it goes back, and then we see Casey and April, so I was like, oh, okay, so I guess it wasn't a dream, because we're really seeing them now. And so I'm guessing that was Mikey's Valhalla. It was his
peace.
Yeah, exactly, his peace. He got to be with his brothers. They're back in the original lair. They're young. They've got their lives before them. Master Splinter's alive. But all in all, no, great ending to a book. And so let's not discuss the baby turtles yet. Let's do that rewind to what I was going to discuss, and we wanted to discuss, and that is that when Mikey is training Casey, he realizes that she's faster, stronger, and just quicker. Or, well, I already said quicker, but she just has too much. She's too much. She's not just quite human.
It's not just training that's gotten her this far.
Right. Yeah, no, she's got innate abilities, and she's got
for everybody that is listening on their podcast, watching YouTube after this has aired live, pause right now, and I want you to go over to that comment on Facebook, on YouTube, anything like that, and drop your comment onto why you would think that Casey is faster, stronger. And you're gonna hit play, and you're gonna discover, and you get to know that satisfaction of whether you were right.
You're right or wrong. Yeah.
With that also being said,
you gotta remember, her dad is Casey Jones, full on human, just a badass Punisher type that went out and whooped some ass in the neighborhood because the neighborhood was getting bad. And then you got April O'Neil, mild-mannered daily reporter, and they just befriended the Turtles and have been friends with the Turtles for decades. But their daughter is somehow not a mutant, not a superhuman, but she can knock the shit out of some stuff. We see it. She whoops some ass. But if you've unpaused now, then you can get the answer. And I kind of wanted to have a talk with you on how you felt about this, because what it turns out to be, folks, is that because April and Casey spent so much time around the Turtles that they got infected with the mutagen that originally mutated Splinter and the Turtles. And that it got in their blood, and it didn't mutate them, but it stayed in there. It changed their DNA, and so it affected their daughter. And that's how Casey has it. Go ahead.
Something that we didn't mention, and it's mentioned at the very beginning of the book, where Mikey the Last Ronin, takes a really big fall from the top of the tower, unbelievably still alive. And nobody understand how he's been still alive. And that's when April, talks about, getting a sample of his blood, which we discover at the end. She was also putting trackers in him. And explains to Mikey, like, your mutagen has just progressively gotten more and more resilient, and it's just been getting really strong. And then halfway, I don't know exactly when in the book, when we discover that Casey is the product of the mutagen infection that has spread to Casey and April. So when they had a baby, she had the natural born mutagen in her. Now, what I was thinking, because you were asking me about that, to be honest, I didn't think too much. I think it was tied so well into the story. It just made sense to me, because that was my immediate thought process. Like, okay, at first I was like, okay, they got infected. Then I was like, okay, well, they lived there. They explained that was the family, and then they moved in and lived with the Turtles in the sewer. Right. Then you also got to explain that, like, Casey was so tough, and April being more resilient with all the things that the Turtles are all around. And not just that they had it, but the mutagen had gone so strong and evolutionized in the Turtles that that they were getting exposed to it. Which, I mean, now that you bring it up, it's a little bit weird, because it's supposed to be a whole DNA altering thing, which
it's not like they were radioactive.
Right.
They're acting like they were radioactive at this point, and which, maybe they did discuss that in some later Turtle books. I don't know. And if Eastman and Laird have, set that as canon, cool. I'm all for that. But, I do have to say that just even as a standalone book, me being a fan for all these decades and, leaving off a long time ago and just picking up now, beautifully written story. You know, it's a standalone story. You know, if you do need to at least know some background on the Turtles to pick this up. You know, it's
You could definitely enjoy it without, but this is gonna. It's definitely one to know some of the stuff before if you
right.
want to get the feels that we're trying to send you, the
But
chills down our back.
if you are just interested in a great story and fantastic artwork in a comic book, I know there's a lot of folks out there like that. Don't begrudge you at all. This is one to pick up, especially right now, hardback. Guys, how many times have you kicked yourself in the ass for not picking up the hardback before, you know, the trade paperback comes out, before the hardback goes into second and third prints? I can tell you issue 1 of this, of The Last Ronin, is in 4th print now. You couldn't hardly get your hands on the first printing. It's a phenomenal story. Eastman, Laird, gentlemen, thank you so much. And everybody, Waltzman, I think, was the guy that helped on the writing of this time around. You know, thank y'all for the story. And if y'all happen to see this and would like to come on and discuss it sometime, we'd be more than happy to discuss it panel by panel. I know I loved it. David, you know, we don't have a rating system. I guess we'll probably come up with one as we go along over the coming months and weeks and months and years. But let's just say, you know, on a scale of between, you know, of 5, where would you put this as a comic book?
On a scale of 1 to 5, I definitely let's do 1 to 10. As we get into more of this, we'll be able to break down each one because you get more of a dramatic feel for the increments. So out of 10, I would definitely have to say 10. Now I want to hear yours. The reason why I'm saying 10, guys, this isn't just because we've been hyping it up and it was a really good one and everything like that. But as Matthew knows, due to some medical issues that I have, it can be hard for me to go through a whole book without having my medical issues. And this one was excellent. And I was able to sit through all of it and enjoy every last second of it. For people who don't really like reading books and stuff like that for those kind of reasons, it's still worth it, guys. It's done well. So I would have to say 10.
And man, I hate to take any stars off for what I'm about to say. I would have to go 9.5. I can take away a half a star, and that's only for one reason. And part of it is greed. I wish it was a little longer. I felt like the last half of 4 and 5 were rushed. I got my 15-page battle scene, but and don't get me wrong, that was fucking excellent. That was some of the best that I've seen in some time. But some of the other storyline felt kind of rushed. Yes, I do know that we had this overarching story arc throughout all 5 issues. But this is also a 40 years in the making. And we're bringing it to an end. This is the end of 2 clans. And I just wanted to see a little bit more. And like I said, that could just be greed on my part. But you got to remember, the first one came out in 2020. And then we didn't even get the last one until now. So it took 2 years, and which I thank them for. You know, at least we got quality product. We got enough prints out on the subsequent ones, and they did have a really good outline on this. It's not like, you know, the fucking the last trilogy of Star Wars where they just did an outline of one and then the next one, well, what can we throw in here? They had an outline of where they wanted this arch to go. But I just think that there could have been more as far as that went. I loved the Mikey stuff. I love the backstory. They made me cry too damn much with the killing of the turtles. Great job, guys. That if you can do that to a reader, you did your job. You hit us in the feels. You made us love your characters. And guys, if y'all love the Ninja Turtles or even like the Ninja Turtles, you definitely want to check out the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, The Last Ronin. You can get them individually. I see them on eBay. Some of the third and fourth and fifth reprints are really affordable. You can snag them on eBay, but right now you can get the hardback with all the beautiful extra artwork. David, show them some of that extra artwork that's in the back, man. That's just that's some of the stuff I wish I'd have bought a copy just to cut out. It's some of the alternate covers, guys. That was the other thing. Each of these, when they came out, they had different artists do different covers, and you can see that's the one we were talking about earlier with Casey and the outfit kind of looking like a different Robin. And there's just so much beautiful artwork in here. And that one was kind of crazy. But so they have a little fun with it too. And guys, on the podcast, he's showing just the artwork that is in the back of the hardbound copy. And man, he's showing one right now where there's the bow and I guess Master Splinter's book,
Staff,
journal.
not bow.
Oh, the staff and Master Splinter's ledger in the snow with blood around it. We got Casey's mask stuck on the end of a katana, stuck in the bricks, and then a dropped katana. It's just so beautiful. And then there's more. I like that black and white one right there, by the way, Mikey. And that's one thing I don't have a tattoo of, dude. I don't have anything Ninja Turtle.
Now, I do want to tell everybody out there that's listening, we've gone over it twice before, and I just want to end the show letting y'all know, if you are not already subscribed and hit the bell on, I'm hitting this part home, guys. We are doing giveaways, and our first one will be coming up in the coming weeks. And if you want to learn how to win a pair of gaming headphones, retail price at about $130, $140, tune in for each of our episodes to learn how to win, and you can enter yourself for a chance to win them.
And if you're into gaming stuff, you may know these. It's Gravistar Pro Sirius Zinc Alloy Gaming Earbuds. I plugged them in. I charged them up. I checked them out for a second, listening to some music. I'm not an earbud user. They sounded pretty damn nice. I'm going to check them out a little bit more to do a review on them. But then, folks, some lucky person's going to walk away with these. And that's coming up. David, any last words before I do that outro?
Guys, thank you so much for joining us, especially on the one before and this one where it's gone a little bit extra longer. But as you know us, we always have tons to say. We also want to hear what you said. Unfortunately, we didn't get any commenters in live.
Everybody's quiet tonight.
But guys, feel free to join us live, or even if you're listening on the podcast and feel like to drop in on our YouTube channel and drop some comments. We are always keeping our eye out, and we'd love to hear from you. Even if you have ideas for what you want to hear for shows upcoming, let us know so that we can get it in as a show for you. We do all of this, guys, for you.
Yep. And next week, folks, we're not quite sure what the show topic's going to be yet.
Maybe Thor.
Yep, it may be Thor. David hasn't a strong opinion on it. I haven't seen it yet. I'm considering probably go see it this week if I can talk the wife into a double feature, because she wants to see that Where the Crawdads Sing. So I have to push give and take on that one. But we also do, as we have talked about, we've got some gaming shows about gaming coming up. I am trying to procure us some guests in that arena. Geek Insider, of course, we've got some connections. And so I'm trying to get us some guests. It's kind of hard to get guests for a Sunday night show that starts at 10 p.m. Eastern. Most of the folks that are CEOs with gaming companies and stuff, they're not available at that time of night. That's one thing that we may do in the future is recording some shows, or at least recording segments that we will play during the show. Whether that's both of us or one of us doing it at the time. It's something that's coming, though. We've got some stuff planned. Go ahead, David. You had something?
Now, keep in mind, everybody, for those who are subscribed and do check out our shows, you may already know, I will be going in to Texas with Matthew and checking out the Bell County Comic-Con. We have gone there before. It was amazing, and I'm expecting really great things this year. Also with the actors and stuff that are going to be there that we hope to maybe possibly interview. We're going to get some footage for you guys. So please stay tuned. We have much to share with you.
Yeah, real quick, because I wanted to ask you if you looked at everybody that is going to be there, because of course we know that Ray Parks, I've mentioned this, Ray Parks is going to be there. Of course, he played Darth Maul. We've got Seth Gilliam that plays the Father Gabriel on The Walking Dead. Richard Karn and Deb Dunning from Home Improvement. I don't know that we'll meet with them. They're not really in the geek sphere. Then there's some folks that are in anime, but another big one that I want to meet with is Tom O'Connell. He plays Obi-Wan Kenobi, not Obi-Wan Kenobi. He plays Darth Vader in the TV series Obi-Wan Kenobi. He's also been in SWAT, the TV series, and True Detective. Judith Hogue. Now, we've been discussing April O'Neil all night. She is the original April O'Neil from the 1980s Ninja Turtles movies. Then there's Brian Tochi, and he was Takashi on Revenge of the Nerds. So, I mean, not Revenge of the Nerds. Yeah, he was Takashi on Revenge of the Nerds. He played Leonardo on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. This is why I wanted to jump over here real quick. So we got April and we got Leonardo. And then there was one other, Clint Howard, which he was in Solo, A Star Wars Story. He was in Star Trek. He's Ron Howard's little brother, but he has his own career of his own right. But yeah, he's going to be there. I wouldn't mind interviewing him. There's some music stars, some more animation stars. There was Felicia Rose. Do you know her? She looks like maybe a Scream Queen. Sleepaway Camp, Victor Crowley, Terrifier 2, Scream Test. And this is actually new. She wasn't on here yesterday. And now, I'm wrapping up.
I do want to mention for all the people who are out here who also may be anime fans, if there's any of these that you'd really like us, please drop us the comments and let us know. We will hit some of the points. I know some of these are really popular. There is My Hero Academia, the voice actor who does Katsuki Bakugo. He's got like grenades for his hands. Some of y'all may know that. My brother was really excited. You also have let's see, Assassination Classroom, I think a voice actress from there. But the other big one that most people will probably know, or at least I knew, was the voice actor Alexis Tipton, who did Trunks in Dragon Ball. Also, we have Ian Sinclair, who does the voice actor for Dragon Ball Z Super Wise. So anyways, those are some of them. And guys, although we may not be on top of that already, if this is something that you really want, let us know in the comments below.
Yeah, definitely throw in the comments, guys, because I can request interview time with these folks. David knows a lot more about the anime stuff than I do. I do want to check some out. Everybody has been telling me I need to check some out. And so I will, but we would love to interview anybody that y'all would like to see. If it's someone that you're going to sit down and watch, a 15-minute interview on, then by all means, throw it in the comments. Let us know. We will see if we can get it set up. As that is being said, folks, we went an hour and 40 minutes this time, but we are done with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, The Last Ronin, chapters 1 through 5, books 1 through 5, if you got them separately. Highly recommend you check them out. Oh, I said 9.5. David gave it a 10. Definitely recommend you check it out. If you are a Ninja Turtles fan or just like a unique story, you like If you like Japan stories, samurai stories, I can never get some of my words out. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, you have been listening to Into the Geekverse, a Geek Insider production. Subscribe to the Geek Insider podcast on your favorite listening app, or join us live on YouTube and Facebook every Sunday night at 9 p.m. Central. Visit geekinsider.com for tons of great geek content, and be sure to sign up for the newsletter. We also have advertising opportunities for the website, newsletter, and podcast. And for more information, contact advertising@geekinsider.com. As always, this show is dedicated to our cohort and friend, Meredith Lochran. Rest in peace, Meredith. We'll see you next week, folks, and you better be there, or we might just have to revoke your geek card. Have a great week, everyone. Say good night, David.
Good night.